Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Arwin, Marie, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all. Marie's actually Adam.
Hello. Good afternoon.
I would just like to say one thing from Scripture, that it says, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." That's all. Hello.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Geometric considerations.
Evidence.
Disappearing bolts.
We're considering it, okay? The evidence.
Well, what's your evidence?
Sorry,
Your standards are very high.
Hold on, Neil. Arwin likes to throw these things out just at the end of a long enough gap so that someone else is ready to speak as he says it. I know your game.
Exactly.
No. We're studying the evidence, was last statement by Arwin. What evidence would that be, Arwin?
Well, there's a considerable amount of it, since a lot of people consider geometrics.
And what is it? It in this sentence is the evidence that we're going to be looking at. Plenty of it. That's fascinating. I didn't ask how much. What is it? What? It's like pulling teeth, isn't it?
Well,
Curvature.
geometrics, define that.
Geometry?
What's geo?
The sphere Earth.
Nah. What's metrics?
My chat's loaded. Yay.
Meters? Measuring?
Yeah, measuring Earth. Now, why'd you beg the question it was a sphere? You haven't measured it yet.
That's geometrics.
Yeah, Earth. Why you assume it's a sphere? It just says Earth measurement.
Well, why do we call it atmosphere, right?
No, that's not the Earth. That's the air.
We don't.
That's the air, Arwin.
Well, is the air part of the Earth?
Is it?
No.
It isn't.
No.
Then how can we be breathing here?
Sorry, what's
It's
Earth?
not terra.
What's Earth? Is Earth a
Terra
solid?
firma.
Sphere.
Solid? Is it a solid? What about a liquid? Yeah, you could definitely say the Earth is a liquid, just about. But is it a gas? Is gas part of anything when it's unbonded and moving at high velocity in all directions, independently of everything around it, unattached to anything? Is it part of Earth? No, the gases aren't part of Earth. I mean, they need containment so that we can experience them on Earth. But they're not part of it. Very much separate from it.
It's a solid fluid.
No, it's not. There's no such thing. That's an oxymoron.
No, it is both gas, liquid, and a solid fluid.
That's just a description of the three different states. No, Earth, regardless of how you define it, isn't going to include gas. Earth is Earth.
It's funny, the geometric considerations he's talking about, if you actually do give geometric consideration to the Earth being a sphere, then you wouldn't be able to measure anything.
Yeah, you'd no longer be able to acquire elevation angles to Polaris to derive the model that the sphere's based on. It's a paradox in terms of their own origin story for the globe in the first instance.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Is there any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, a horizon formerly known as Earth curve, or the curve of the Earth?
It's an incoherent question.
No, it's not.
Yeah, spheres don't exist in reality. The Earth is something that exists in reality. Therefore, they can't have properties that they share.
Not true.
Wait, what?
I can
Spheres
demonstrate
don't
it with
exist?
a ball. I can stick a
Yeah,
ball
yeah,
with a
hold on.
matchstick behind it and show that there's a geometric limitation called the ball edge to my beach ball. It's been demonstrated by Neil deGrasse Tyson and then equivocated with Earth's horizon. So you can have a geometric limitation. We just don't have one called Earth curve, which is precisely what the horizons claim to be. So you say my request for their evidencing their nonsense claim of Earth having a geometric horizon as a ball can have one isn't malformed. What did you say it was? Not malformed. You'd used a different word.
No, the way that they use those terms, it's incoherent.
Yeah, incoherent on the part of their claim. Yeah, no, that I'll agree with. There's nothing wrong with the housekeeping question. I can assure you of that. Mumble, mumble.
Yeah, for example, if you, in their model, if you asked me to provide the geometric horizon, quote unquote, would I show you a photograph or would I show you a circle on a piece of paper? Because in their view, it exists in the circle on a piece of paper.
When
So they
describing
do
what
have
they've,
evidence of that.
yeah, when describing what they've got in a photograph next to it. So they'll have a photograph of a horizon and then a diagram of the side-on view
Right.
of your own head. But what they're comparing it to is the horizon. Hence my question, or the housekeeping question. I'm not going to even call it mine because it's been so carefully crafted by so many people. That one question and all of them. Sorry, I'm talking over you just to defend the housekeeping questions. I'm really sorry. Yes, their claims malformed to assert that Earth's horizon is a geometric limitation. Further to that, it's been debunked by the Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then as per the Earth curve mathematics, every distance to horizon, that's Earth curve, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the distance to the horizon in the imagery we show, with marks for distance in the form of oil platforms, is beyond the geometric limitations at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as per the Earth curve edge horizon claim. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve, and the Earth is not a sphere radius 3959.
Nathan, why do they exclude perspective from orthographic viewing the way they want to show it? What's
So
the
that
purpose?
they can hijack the effect. So the effect of something reducing in size, that would be its apparent size or angular size. The arc measurement that you would take of it gets smaller as it recedes into the distance. Well, at a given point, your limitation in angle will preclude you resolving the bottom section of certain items. For example, if I take a brick and put it on the horizon at, let's say, 1/4 of a mile, there's a reasonable chance that you can make out the brick. You can just see it on the horizon. Whereas if you put that same brick at 2 miles, it's no longer visible because it's too small to see. Ergo, one brick at, 2 miles, has disappeared from view. You can no longer see the brick on the horizon because it's too small. Now, if you take the exact same brick and put a 50-story skyscraper on top of it, can you see the brick at the bottom? No. It's still too small to see. Ergo, it appears like you've lost one brick to the horizon. Well, that is claimed to be Earth curve when you describe the maths without that arc reduction at distance, aka perspective, it getting smaller. How do you do it in their maths? You say the building is 100 feet. Ergo, as it goes into the distance, it's still 100 feet. And when it's at 2 miles, in my example, it's still 100 feet. But what do you know? There's a foot missing from the bottom. Because my bricks are vertically orientated for this example. So there's a foot missing from the bottom. Well, if there's 1 foot, not an angular size, missing from the bottom, and we show it in a diagram that excludes angular relationships, we can claim that the 1 foot is being obscured by, drum roll please, the physical geometric limitation they call Earth curve at the horizon. So to answer your question, although it wasn't very concise, they exclude perspective because they've renamed perspective Earth curve at the horizon. Moving on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, wait a second. Moving?
Come again?
I said, wait a second. We're moving right now?
Your line's terrible, Neil. I don't know if you're in a bad reception area. I could hardly hear you in the intro after the intro either. But praise be, and if that was biblical also.
You should no. He said, "Are we?" He said, "Are we moving right now?" He was just playing off what you said.
My eldest daughter asked me that today. Literally, she was like, "Are we moving right now?" And I was like, "No," because she'd been watching something spacey. And then I dug her out. That reminds me, I must get to that after we do the housekeeping. Shout out to Mr. Cheswick. That's how his name's spelt, not pronounced, on YouTube. So go and check out Mr. Cheswick for a video clip of NASA talking to the scientists who do the CAD artwork. So they disclaim themselves as artists and scientists, and then showed you how they render images and then communicate with the other scientists at NASA who decide whether or not they look realistic enough or not. So I'll play that clip from Mr. Cheswick. He's got another one as well with a very similar setup with one guy instead of a couple of guys. Again, talking about how they render our reality on your TV screen and how he communicates back and forth with the scientists about how this exoplanet doesn't look dingy enough and looks too much like Earth. We need to make the water less blue, etc., etc. So upon being asked by my daughter if we're moving, I was like, look, this is how they create that world. She's old enough to understand me now, so I just broke it down for her with that clip. And I'm like, she understands, 6, she understands what science is now. So when I asked her, after playing that clip to her, what is he? Is he a scientist? And she went, no. I went, well, what is he? She went, well, he's an artist. And I went, yeah, that's right. He's an artist. If you want to call it that, illustrator maybe, whatever the term is, it's certainly not scientist. But she recognised that. But anyway, that was off the back of my eldest 6-year-old daughter asking me if we're moving, because to her it was patently obvious that we weren't, and she was a bit confused. Anyway, there we go. No, we're not. It's claimed we are. We'd have Coriolis drift, i.e. things looking like they curve when they're actually travelling in a straight path as a result of you turning beneath them.
I think you didn't pause long enough after the first question.
What was the first question that I didn't pause long enough after?
Well, when I asked you about why did they exclude perspective from the orthographic, you answered it, but then there was a silence, but you didn't wait long enough. And
when I moved on to axial rotation. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you went right to axial rotation.
There was at least 5 seconds. If I was a radio station, I'd get a fine.
All right. Well, I'm trying to get to a point here. If you stop interrupting, now come on.
My bad. The pause and in silence completely interrupted your point. I'm so sorry.
All right. Yesterday, we showed a picture of how our eyes actually see the horizon. Adam showed it today at the Adriatic coast. They use a drawing, side-on view, which no one sees that way. Everyone who's listening to our voices right now could testify that the mountain is really small, far away, based on their view, and their thumb could hide it. As they drive closer to the mountain, it's enormous, and their thumb can't hide it anymore. Explain that.
It's just perspective.
Right. No, right. No, I know. That's why it's such a hammer right now. We're delivering to how they lie about the globe. Every time you see that side-on view, they got a tangent plane and this circle falling away real quick. That never happens in reality. That's not reality. This is why you got to get away from these pictures. This is how they brainwash you.
Okay,
Well,
so
nothing
as I've
in a
got it up,
picture like that,
go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, in a picture like that, okay, when you draw a circle and you put, let's say, for lack of a better term, an observer, let's say, on top of the circle, and then you draw a line from that dude's eyes across the circle, right? You call it a tangent. You can see all three things simultaneously. You can see the guy, the line, and the circle, right? So you know it's a circle. You know, for example, when McToon showed his example of squiggly lines to John and asked him, oh, can I get angles between these lines? Right? Now, obviously, McToon was wrong in his assessment, even though John had the correct assessment, which is you can draw 2 points, right? And you can draw rays to the points in a vertex and they get an angle at the vertex, which is true. But the problem too is you also see in McToon's example the squiggly lines. In reality, you don't see a circle or a squiggly line when you look out across the land or the water. You must infer that at best. And where are you inferring it from? You're inferring it from that previous drawing. You're taking the drawing, which is just an ideal reality, right? And you're putting it into concrete reality. And that's a faux pas because you haven't confirmed that what you're standing on is the circle in question yet.
Any remarks? Anybody? If not,
I was just going to say that if it was that circle, then you wouldn't be able to measure elevation angles.
I think that's his point.
Speaking of elevation angles, I have a question about celestial navigation. If I can work it in.
Go on then.
Okay, I've been late in the game a little bit, so I'm a little bit behind the understanding. Well, I've got into a discussion with some people on Discord, obviously, about this topic. Imagine, the whole point of a sextant is to shoot the horizon to get an elevation angle off of the horizon, so I can figure out the GP of the star. Now, why is it not possible using the vertical of plumb bob to get the angle of the star to establish what the elevation angle would be? For example, if I'm in the mountains.
Oh, before don't need the example. Stop. Okay, your question is why not just the vertical? Correct.
Right.
What's the vertical? Hold on. Let's just answer you quickly. What's the vertical in reference to?
Well, usually vertical is a 90 degree off the horizontal.
Boom.
Right.
Done. There's your answer.
So now I get that. That's fine.
So hold on, Paul. So to have vertical, you must first reference it to
horizontal. I get it. I get that, and that's not
ground.
And what are we using to establish our horizontal? The horizon in this instance.
And I'm not denying any of that. That's not what I'm.
Okay, my bad. I wanted the overriding point to come at that stage. Feel free to carry on with your example. My bad.
Okay, good. I get this feeling, especially in there. I know you need to establish what the horizontal is so you can figure out the GP, and I'm not denying that, but it's almost like there's an establishment that you can't use the vertical to even establish the elevation angle. And my thinking in this is simple. You have 90 degrees between vertical and horizontal. And if you're doing the elevation angle, my elevation angle is 30 degrees. So to go to vertical, it's another 60 degrees. So why can't you do the reverse to get the elevation angle?
Let me answer this.
Go ahead.
Let me answer this. Paul, who says that?
I'm saying that because I'm thinking it through logically.
Okay, first of all, no, I know. I'm going to answer you. And logically, it's a good question that you pose, but it's a malform because no one ever on this panel said that. No one in the book says that. We are saying that at sea on a rocking boat, The only thing stable is the horizon itself. And off of that, by the rocking motion of the sextant to find that vertical, that's how they do it at sea using the stable sea horizon. If you were on land and you had a plumb line, you could establish your vertical and get the same results.
That's all I wanted. That's actually all. That's all I wanted, because there's flat earthers that's been making this argument in the other Discord and saying that you cannot do it from the vertical virtually. You can't do it.
No, you.
So
you can,
I'm like,
let me explain for the audience then. Yeah, just for the audience. You got
just
it.
Before you do, did you want to round out anything else, Paul?
No, that was it, guys. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, I should be able to, anywhere in the world, no matter where I'm at, if there's a cloudy day and all I have is a handful of stars and there's fog bank or snow, but if I can shoot one star with a plumb bob, I can navigate anywhere in the world.
Okay.
That was my thinking.
No, fine. Go ahead, 10th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. On land, when nothing's moving, what do you think a theodolite does? What do you think all these things do? They level it. They have a plumb bob even hanging from some theodolites to make sure it's that vertical is vertical. What do you think the EQ deck equatorial mount telescope is? It has to be leveled, and then you're using the sky map, and you're no longer using the Earth as a reference. You're using the stars and Aries and so forth. So that's a whole different way of doing it, but it still works. Now, the two-step process with a Mariner sextant is because you can't do that at sea to establish the zenith distance right away from your vertical. So what you do is you do the elevation angle first. So that's a right angle. The hypotenuse is your eye line to the star. The ocean surface is flat after height of eye correction. And then you subtract your elevation angle from 90. Now, 90, who's 90? The star is the zenith position over the Earth, so it's a 90. I mean, it's right there. It's right over the Earth. So is it that 90, or is it the 90 of the observer? Well, let's see. So you're the observer. You shoot the star using the sea horizon, and you get an elevation angle of 50 degrees. 50 minus 90 leaves you 40. 40 times 60 nautical miles is 2,400 miles? Nautical miles? GP to GP? Yeah, so you minus it took two steps to get your zenith as if you had a plumb bob, but you didn't have a plumb bob, so you have to do the two-step method together.
Doesn't the geographical position
that's what I was
itself... Sorry, Paul.
Sorry.
Just having a geographical position in and of itself, doesn't that immediately just overcome this argument? Just the GP on its own. You and the GP are forming a baseline between you and it, and that's flat.
Yeah. No, well, even something better. What is the GP based on? 90. Just say 90. You can't have a 90 on the curved surface.
That's in essence what I'm saying. 90 degrees to the GP is you. That means the baseline's flat. Well, you can measure. You can talk about measuring from the vertical if you like. Okay, but what are you getting? What are you trying to achieve? Where are you getting the GP? The geographical position, the position on the ground with 90 degrees to you. That means between you and the GP, there's a flat plane. That's the end of this discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Well, it's just
because.
Just hold on, John. Go ahead, Paul.
I mean, yeah, it's just funny. I mean, this is where I think there's a bit of a disconnect sometimes, because I actually looked up, navigation in an airplane, and they don't use they use a sextant, but it's a bubble sextant, because in a sense it establishes a vertical. It doesn't establish it's using the vertical to do what it needs to do, because that's more stable in an aircraft. And all of say they can't shoot the horizon. Sometimes there's clouds in the way, so they can't shoot the horizon in an aircraft. So they have to use something else, and that's why I'm like, none of this made sense when getting into an argument. I'm more like, I don't even understand this fully, and I understand angles just a little bit.
Whoa. What do they do? Okay, you've got to the stage where they're in the sky, they've got the clouds, there's no horizon. What do they use then?
Well, they have to use the vertical to figure it out.
Do they?
They have to.
And how do they establish that? In the plane? How do they do that?
Well, they do use it's a bubble sextant.
A bubble, and bubbles, they're establishing vertical, are they? Bubbles establish vertical, do they?
Well, I mean, that's how.
Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but
You're not answering me though. You're not answering me.
No, I know it creates an artificial. It creates a reference horizontal. I get that, and I read
that's
that.
the end of this discussion. Then, Paul. That's the end of this, then, isn't it?
Okay, I get it.
Why are you being resigned to it? Hold on. Don't be resigned to like. Oh, well, okay. Well, that's the end of that then. No, that's the end of that then.
Irrespective of what height we're at.
Hold on, Adam. I'm really sorry. Hold on. Everyone, just calm down. Paul, have you got anything else to add? If not, it's over to John.
No. It just seemed like it was some flat earthers were saying you could not establish a horizontal off the vertical, and that's what
they don't understand the argument, Paul. They don't understand the argument. That's the bottom line. I'm not just saying that to be demeaning. That is a fact. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to state it as a question. I'm just going to state it as an absolute fact. Vertical references the Earth. Full stop. Anybody that doesn't understand that is incapable of having any kind of conversation with you.
Hold on, John.
They don't understand.
Hold on. Let's just see if that's true. So if I go out into space, because I'm a globe-believing muppet who thinks I can travel into a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum away from the sphere Earth that we've reified with an R value you can't measure, if I'm in space and I drop a plumb line, can't I just have 90 degrees to the plumb line in space as my horizontal?
There is no dropping a plumb line in space. Everything floats in space. There is no reference to the vertical.
So I can't even drop the plumb line? Oh. So if I am dropping a plumb line, where am I dropping it and what's it in reference to then, John?
The Earth.
Boom.
Like that's why Ruhif wouldn't answer me when I kept on asking, well, are we doing this in free space or are we doing it on Earth? It's always in reference to
this
Earth.
is the problem they've got, isn't it, John? They want to take it away with geographical positions, that's the position on the ground, with you stood on the ground making a measurement with angle measuring tools. They want to take it away from the ground because none of this references a curving Earth, and it doesn't work with a curving Earth. So all they've got to respond to us with is, how can I take this away from the ground? Well, that's what we're navigating, chumps.
After Adam goes, I'd like to say something.
I would just see if John's got any more to add. Hold on. Extra host. Have you got anything more to add, John?
Well, that was the point that I got frustrated with Ruhif because I had him in the same circle like 10 times and he just would not acknowledge it. And now I'm starting to see that on our side as well, that people aren't getting that vertical explicitly requires Earth.
Yep.
That's what they get it.
Yeah. But all of this measuring in the vertical, why? Oh, so we don't have to reference the horizontal that's the Earth we're going to be navigating. Yeah, that's why they're asking that, Paul. That's why they're postulating it, because they've been told by anti-flat earthers or globers that we don't need to reference the ground when we're about to navigate the ground. It's absurd. Go ahead, Adam.
It was literally just to reiterate a point. Where if we are on land and we're going to use a plumb bob, then the horizontal we create is in reference to the flat plane you're going to navigate upon. The altitude's irrelevant. As long as you establish that plane, and by creating the horizontal with a plumb line, that is creating the plane for you. The horizontal is in reference to the surface you're going to navigate upon. So that is why you can use a horizontal, but it's only in relation to the flat plane that it's horizontal to.
Perfect. Just perfect, Adam. Thank you so much. Excellent addition. If you're listening and you're new, I say this like there's anybody who's going to come and buy this place, not already in the pond. But anyway, if you're watching this and you're new and you don't realise that this this argument, the elevation, angle and navigation in general argument, is absolutely devastating to a globe Earth claim. It annihilates it at every single stage. From the very first step, flat Earth is required. It's a prerequisite. You establish it in the very first thing you do. This is a flat Earth proof. And I want to overplay it because it can't be overplayed. This is as good as it gets. This is that silver bullet that everyone wanted. If you want a silver bullet to destroy the globe, the black swan destroys all aspects of the globe. Their response, refraction, means it's not geometric. It means it's not Earth curve. It's not the claim of the physical limitation. Their response, it also annihilates the claim of a physical Earth curve and a globe Earth in general, because you need to measure it to claim it. So black swan is the silver bullet for destroying the globe. Celestial navigation is the silver bullet to prove we are on a flat plane. And I can't stress that enough. Over to you, 10th.
Yeah, is this the extra host time, pun intended? The sextant is to establish a vertical angle. It's not trying to prove the horizon, which is the sea. So you're in the middle of the ocean. All you got around you is where the sea is meeting the air or the clouds at a distance. So your visible horizon, it's like a circle around you. And you turn around and you say, my goodness, that's a perfect horizontal for me to establish a vertical. Let me grab my sextant. You grab your sextant, and then you sight the star or the sun, and you bring it down through the index mirror to the horizon mirror that's at the horizon, and you rock it from left to right to establish vertical. Once you have vertical, that's when you take your reading in degrees, minutes, and seconds. So it's not there at sea to say, okay, let's make sure I have a horizontal first. No, you're already assuming the Earth is flat. That's the beauty of it.
It's not that you're assuming it, you're measuring it in that manner.
Now, well, again, my language is the same as yours. I'm saying the navigator is not thinking twice. I got to make sure I have a horizontal. He already knows it's horizontal.
Well, he needs his tool to establish the horizontal he'll be navigating upon. So he does. It's a great argument. You don't get any better than this. I've said that so many times though, for so many different arguments, and lo and behold, we do add more housekeeping questions because we end up coming across fantastic arguments. They're all good. I know we do a top 5 occasionally, but this is definitely a top of the pile. It's a flat Earth proof.
Yeah, but the sextant can do horizontal angles if you turn it sideways, like if you're offshore and you're going to use a lighthouse against a building, okay? But you have to turn it sideways to establish a horizontal angle. But when you use it the proper way, using the horizon, it's only to establish a vertical.
I just out of curiosity, the argument, as you're calling it, is their position as well. You know, they're using the celestial sphere model to derive a globe Earth, and so we're in agreement about the celestial sphere model. Where does the argument part of this happen?
It doesn't. The moment they agree that the derivation of their globe claim is from a flat Earth celestial sphere model, there isn't any argument anymore. The step before assuming a sphere is measuring a flat Earth, and the measurements come from that plane in that model that it's not predates, what's the word? Precedes the globe. So when they say, oh, well, the map's flat because it's come from a globe projection, yeah, that's right. The globe projection came from the flat Earth and celestial sphere around it, though. So there is no argument to answer your question. Earth's flat. That's how it's measured. And even if you model it as a globe, you modeled it based on a flat Earth.
Crippling. This argument is crippling to the globe.
Nathan, I posted some slides in Master B.
Where do you want to begin? With the perspective stuff or with the celestial sphere projection stuff?
Let's do the perspective stuff with the railroad tracks.
Okay, it's up to you.
No, it's fine. All right. So here's how we see. You could see that these tracks at a distance converge to your eye line because of perspective. They don't show this. They don't show the Earth this way when they do their drawings. They do side on. Next slide. Here's a description of how it works. So below the object, even with the object, and above the object. And then there's the horizon, eye level. The horizon at eye level is not the sea horizon. The sea horizon appears to rise to your eye level. So they have many different things for horizon. So this one is called horizon at eye level. But then you've got the sea horizon that rises or appears to rise to your eye level. Those are two different things. So if you're a worm on the ground, the horizons, you're looking up, the worm's eye horizon will be looking, and the versus if you're a bird looking down, kind of like a depression angle. So just watch a few art videos. They do a tremendous job of showing this. The next one shows converging lines, but we know the train would derail if those tracks converge. So we know they don't converge in reality, but at infinity, what's infinity? Vanishing point. What's happening? They seem to converge due to perspective. Now, there's going to be more on this soon from me, but the whole point is that older paintings prior to the 1500s, especially the 1600s, they didn't use perspective. It was like flat. There was like no depth to the paintings. Then when they realized that in order to do a proper painting to match reality in a 3D world, you have to draw a horizontal line somewhere on that blank canvas and have everything go there as you see this. Then we saw the greatness of depth and beautiful paintings come out, which is exactly the way our eye sees the world. More coming on that. All right, the next slide is the celestial sphere model over the Earth, hollowed out. Where's the angle emanating from here, Nathan?
Emanating from a position we can't actually see in this diagram. So the actual vertex is obscured by the section that's been taken out of the globe projection taken from the celestial sphere model that's inside this globe model. So there's another model that's not represented. It's just a black hole void. That would be the celestial sphere model. They've got the outside part of it, and when you take the angle, the model that it's represented in is the celestial sphere model. Now, for some reason, that's inside a black hole void inside a globe that's come from that model. They've just excluded it, even though they've drawn the angle to it. Hope that answers your question.
It does. Now, let me ask you, that void that's cut out on the celestial sphere and the globe Earth, what shape is that void?
What shape is the void?
Does it look like a triangle that could be 180, or does that look like a spherical triangle?
There's no such thing as a spherical triangle.
I know, but in this picture, what does it look like?
Looks like a slice of cake taken out of the globe.
Okay, you're not going to go there. Perfect. All right, so the angle comes from the center of the Earth, according to their nautical almanac books. Yeah, but I'm on the surface with the sextant. So, yeah, but that's only 4,000 miles below you, so don't worry. How far the stars are away, it won't matter at that point. All right, this is the BS they push on everybody. All right, but anyway, the angle comes there, and notice that bottom line coming from that hole from the Earth to the celestial sphere. It's at the celestial equator, the equinoctial, which matches perfectly with the Earth's equator, even though this picture doesn't show it that way, but it's supposed to be at the Earth's equator. So then that means line for line, longitude, latitude, that's painted on the celestial sphere, matches line for line on the globe Earth. So they basically have two globe Earths. One's the celestial sphere where the stars are underneath in the concave version, and on the outside of the celestial sphere, they have the same longitude, latitude line. So it could just be projected perfectly like Earth. Okay, but where's the angle come from? Oh, the center of Earth. Well, what's the center of Earth? Go to the next slide. Let's see, horizontal angle along the horizon, azimuth angle, altitude angle, vertical angle above the horizon. Oh, there's the center of Earth. That's where it's coming from, and there's the semi-hemisphere above it. And so now we're just looking inside, so it's all coming from a flat disk, a plane. Okay, now go back to the previous picture. So we just saw what was inside, and now this is what they show, but the navigator is supposed to be on the arc surface of this Earth. So what's happening here? What's happening here is that if we go back to that black and white showing the azimuth angle and the altitude angle, is that the arc of a protractor is what you're seeing here. And it's an angular relationship of that star to the plane you live on. And that's how you're able to know where it's over the plane, by the angular measurement. And they now all of a sudden, through, as John has said, using the Haversine formula, they project it to the celestial sphere and then reproject it back to make a flat surface curve and match. This is where they come in with their funky math. But this is how it's done. This is how everything's done, because you can't get an angle from a curved surface. And the last slide I want to show is for the people who want to understand when you have the sea horizon and you rock the sextant left to right, you create this arc. And when it's directly over, that's when you take the side at tangency, which is you're using it for vertical. I'm done.
Thank you, 10th. Shout out to Mike808 for hitting the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed. Was there anybody queuing up waiting to talk about this? No? Well, I'll just summarise what 10th Man's just said. They're taking the angle from a flat plane and then projecting that plane out with the celestial sphere projected backwards down onto a globe in this diagram. I'll just put it back up on screen. So the origins of this depiction are something that doesn't include the sphere map in between. It includes where the angle's taken from. And that is a flat Earth model. And that model is where the globe came from. It's the only way it can be made, because you're using angles to the stars. Angles require two straight lines. This is a flat Earth, stone cold proof. And if looking at this depiction of a globe with an angle coming from the centre of it doesn't make you go, huh? What the hell's this? Why would I be standing looking at the inside of a projected map? Well, what's the projection of this map come from? What's this with the Americas? What is it? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a projection from a flat model. That's what it is. You move on?
Yeah, but I got one major bone to pick.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, Kent said that after the advent of linear perspective, this helped us realize how we actually see. That's false. We don't see in linear perspective. Linear perspective is an ideal model which doesn't take into account the physics of light or the angles of propagation from the target source. So it cannot be an accurate depiction of reality. It would be another model reification if you said such a thing.
No, it's fair enough. We like hyperspecificity here. That's good.
Now, let's be clear. A lot of false arguments came out of this assumption that we see an ideal perspective. You know, for example, if the Earth was flat, the horizon would always be at eye level. Horizon is not always at eye level, therefore the Earth's a globe.
What was my mistake?
How many times you're...
He said linear perspective, and he's just pointing out that in physical reality we don't have linear perspective. There's a lot more to it.
Hang on, I'm just trying to see where I made a mistake. I said the artist figured out how to do paintings on the flat surface that most realistically match our 3D world.
Yeah.
Fair, but you actually said that this is how we see, which is false.
Well, when I say this is how we see, I may have a whole different version of that rather than the hyper-specific one that I'm being held to. The way I see a painting done with perspective allows me to see with depth. I see with depth. That's my reference.
The basics of how we see, with what 10th and you're criticising in this, is the linear perspective aspect of it. Is close enough, but if you're actually talking about how we would qualify it at the minutiae level, they have their maths that qualifies it at that level. And in that respect, he's right. But when they qualify it at the minutiae level, they're doing it with geometric mathematics that aren't in any way in relation to what we actually see. So by contrast, we've got a criticism that says, just be specific about it. If we're going to qualify diffraction limits and refraction limits and distance and lens capabilities and the Rayleigh criterion, you need to take in absolutely all of it if you're going to give an accurate description of how the horizon behaves. Because if you don't, you end up diluting it to the point where you get an assertion from the dilution that is the horizon rises to eye level. That's his main criticism. That's where the dilution ends up. So here, we'd just like to be hyper-specific. Now, it doesn't take anything away from your presentation because you are generally correct. How we view things in terms of the linear drawing presented in 10th Man's diagram, and I'm going to show this right now, is close enough. Yes, we can be hyper-specific if we were detailing it in a CAD drawing and qualifying something, but it's not. It's a generalised description of how we see things. And when we take the drawing of the track and compare it to the very basic pencil drawing of the track, completely linear in nature, it's close enough. Now, does that drawing take into account the fact that, well, we do have some, light conditions going on, and maybe the lens, we haven't really figured out what distance it's going to... No, we haven't done any of that in more specific terms, but in a more general way, 10th is absolutely correct. It doesn't take anything away from his presentation. What we see in general terms matches with just a linear perspective description of the world. That's what's drawn here. Does this not match what we see? Does this look like what we see?
Can you go to the last picture I just posted?
Yeah, same thing. That's what I was showing with the train tracks.
Okay.
There we go. That's it. It doesn't mean his criticism's not right either. Your criticism's perfectly valid.
No. Don't miss it. What's the writing say?
There's infinity right there.
Oh, I thought that was the horizon.
Well, it's a diffraction limit, but if I say that, he could jump on my back and say, no, it's not just the diffraction limit. There's far more going on.
No, you're missing the point. Listen, the horizon is their infinity.
No, it's their Earth curve edge.
No. More to come, but the horizon is the vanishing point to the way our eyes work. And you can see it right here. And they call it infinity. Now, how can the horizon be infinity? I thought after the Earth, there's all this vacuum space and it's got to go all. They still hasn't even gone to the celestial sphere yet.
Okie dokie.
More to come.
Well, that's just if somebody was to criticise and say, look, guys, you're being really pedantic about this. Well, yeah, we are. We've got to be. So I thank you both. Perfectly valid. Let's move on. Did we cover axial rotation enough? It seemed to have got cut off, although we did cover it a little bit. Any evidence of the distance?
You have axial...
Go on.
Can you have axial rotation without a measurable axis?
No.
Wait, we're moving again?
No. We weren't ever moving to begin with, but no. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? That'd be 10 grand fine if I was a radio station.
But if you measure the angles to the sun and then insert an R value that makes you incapable of getting the angles to the sun, you can say it's 93 million miles away.
Well, no, because you'd have to get the angle to a geometric limitation called Earth curve to derive the geometric value of R for Earth as a sphere, to then superimpose your assumption of Earth as a sphere with a radius value at 3959 onto Venus, and then apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion for the scaling values based on the Christian Huygens assumption of Venus being Earth's twin with the same radius value to give you that 93 million mile sun. You can't get
but the minute...
Go on.
The minute that you take the angle to the sun from Earth, not going to be able to do any of that.
Yeah, the angle you take in the first instance completely eradicates the notion that you're about to suppose when you bend the line that you took the angle from. So it's an absolutely ludicrous notion to take an angle measured off a flat plane that required it to be horizontal to a star or to the horizon to derive a radius value, to then say the ground you were standing on measuring with a horizontal to have an angle is now a curved surface. That makes no sense. It doesn't work. It violates its own measurement. So no, not 93 million miles either, John.
I agree.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Isn't that what's supposed to keep us held to the surface of the ball?
In roundabout terms, yeah.
So if we're not on a ball, then how can you have scientific evidence for gravity?
It's not required anymore, but they still claim that we're on a ball, and therefore they still claim gravity, and they still claim they've got science for it.
What is gravity?
Shout out to Unitox Femo for the super chat or super sticker. Thumbs up. What is it? Bending of a pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry.
So nonsense.
Well, pseudo-Riemannian geometry is just mathematics. I mean, I'm not going to say nonsense, but it's not real.
So it's not nonsense that could keep us on a ball.
On the ball in the model, in violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
So as long as you don't assert that gravity has anything to do with Earth, it's not nonsense.
Well, it is, because they've got a bending of space-time with Earth in that bent space-time. So, yeah, the assertion directly links to Earth. Earth is pushing up as it travels through a geodesic in space-time at 9.8 meters per second squared. So the apple falling from the tree has Earth moving up towards it because of Earth being in that bent space-time.
That is utter horse shit, and you know it.
Yeah, well, it's taking place in a pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry that doesn't represent the world. We don't have a fourth dimension. But that's where this takes place. The description's kind of irrelevant, therefore, but, you know, that's what it's described as doing. Does it make sense? Well, no, and if you translate it to physical terms, no, it doesn't, because it's nonsensical. We don't have a fourth dimension.
Well, aren't we all about the physical here?
Yeah, this isn't physics, though, is it? It's maths.
And there you go.
Well, what I'm saying is, as long as your description doesn't involve Earth or reality, then you could say it makes sense. But the minute you try to apply it to reality, it becomes nonsense.
Yeah, if you were describing it like, what's the word? In a continuity way. So if you're trying to describe how Narnia functions, you can get it to the point where, at least, even though it's non-existent, logically consistent is all you will achieve. So how the gas lamp works in Narnia, how the time dilation works when you walk through the wardrobe, you can align those things so that they make sense in a continuity style. Therefore, they don't shatter the suspension of disbelief when you imagine that there's a place called Narnia. Well, you could describe that in a mathematics. You could give the mathematics of time dilation via wardrobe travel, or Narnia gas lamp power consumption with no source of fuel. You could quantify all of those things mathematically. But when, as John just said, when you try and translate those into the physical reality, well, there is no translation from Narnia science to physical reality. Number one, Narnia science is just some maths they've made up. They've only called it science so you believe Narnia is real. Now, when I translate that description from Narnia science to heliocentric sphere Earth in a vacuum science, there's no difference. Having it make sense mathematically or logically in a fourth dimension that doesn't exist is akin to making the time dilation through the wardrobe make sense. It might make logical sense, it might make mathematical sense, but it's not reality. It's conceptual. That fourth space pseudo-Riemannian time dilating medium isn't real. So yeah, who cares if it works in the maths or not?
They seem to care.
Well, they poison us with nonsensical imagery, which I'm going to get to in a second. Unless anyone's got anything else on this, I just don't want to run out of time before I play it. I will pepper it with a few interruptions, so just in case I get copywritten striked for playing too big of a chunk, I'll stop it every little bit, if you know what I mean.
And mysterious universe.
No doubt. And now Chris Martinez is introducing us to two of the artists behind some of the most iconic space art in the galaxy.
In a small, bright office, working side by side.
Let's see.
Robert Hurt and Tim Pyle bring the universe to life.
So the Astons underneath say, NASA artists paint picture of other worlds.
What we're doing does have real science underlying it.
Robert is an astrophysicist turned artist.
So he's an astrophysicist, and it's got real science behind it. Cut to his Mac. Any comment?
That's hysterical.
Tim, once a Hollywood animator, is now a Planet illustrator. Together, they produce some of NASA.
Say again, Adam.
Sorry, he did say underlining it, not backed by science or user science. Science underlining it, which I don't know, it's the most wishy-washy, unambiguous link between science and art I've heard, but
well, they
science
follow it,
underlining art.
They then follow it up with, he's an astrophysicist turned artist. So they make the connection or reaffirm the loose connection again. So in the mind's eye, we're talking science here. We've said astrophysicist.
But that's like claiming he used to... Sorry.
Go on.
It's like claiming he used to be a baker, so it's now a combination of cooking and art, because he used to be a baker. It's kind of irrelevant what you used to do. What are you doing now, son?
Exactly. That's the distinction my 6-year-old managed to fathom. In other words, is he an artist or is he a scientist? He's an artist. Okay. Well, what's his art about? The quote-unquote science of our world.
NASA's most popular images, from renderings of how planets light years away could look, to actual photos of stars and galaxies captured by NASA's powerful telescopes.
And this is
cut to the picture of the NASA telescope that we only had up for a couple of seconds. Whoa, hang on a second. This looks suspiciously like a piece of artwork. So this piece of artwork captured the photos for them to make new artwork. Why don't we just have the photos? Let's just have them from the sky vacuum where this telescope is. You feel free to comment.
Well, I'd say the real photo doesn't exist. All you've got from there is 1011101111111111. That's the data they're getting, isn't it? Not a picture.
Telescopes.
And this is sort of how it comes to me. And then
many of those images have a dark, grainy start, but color and light reveal an astonishing glimpse of how the deepest regions of space might appear to the human eye.
What I'm trying...
How they might appear? Might? Hold on. The night sky is available to my eye. Shockingly. Why do we need you to do this again? What, how the night sky might appear? What if we imagined it in your space vacuum way? Yeah, because that only exists on this screen, doesn't it?
Copyright.
What I'm trying to do is show people sort of the broader colors that the universe has to offer.
Right, the offer is available to my eye, and you're adding to it and telling me that this is what the universe could have to offer. I see. No, it's just what you're adding to it, what you've decided it has got to offer because you're adding it to it and then offering it to us.
It's a delicate blend of imagination and data. The artist...
Ooh, delicate blend. Yeah. Of data and imagination. Yeah, that's pretty much summing it up beautifully, isn't it? That's what the heliocentric deception's all about. A mix of imagination and real data.
Artists meet with NASA scientists.
Say again?
Mostly imagination.
In this instance, almost 100%.
Over many drafts to ensure a planet or galaxy's look lines up with the research to make each one as accurate as possible.
So if it's lining up with the research and the research is taking pictures of it, why do the artist renderings need to match up with the research? Just show the photo, then it would match implicitly. It's nonsense. All they have is the artist renderings of these spheres, because that's where they exist, on your television screen only.
I love the challenge. It's kind of like a puzzle to me of trying to create something that looks really cool within the restrictions that were given by the scientists.
Like restrictions given by scientists? You mean the guys who are establishing cause and effect relationship by way of systematic experimentation based on hypotheses that establish a natural phenomena and the cause thereof, if validated correctly? They give you limitations on your artwork, do they? Oh, right. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Why would any artist have a limitation put upon them by someone who establishes cause and effect relationships empirically? I don't see why they should impose any limitations on anybody ever, other than the limitations that hypothesis-based systematic experimentation poses to them. Anybody got any comment on that? About the scientist's limitations this artist has placed on him?
How is it that they're getting the data? Aren't they claiming to have like red waves and blue waves measuring the distance and therefore extrapolating to the prism of color that we see in this world and then transferring those colors to the wavelengths?
No, they're claiming to have photographs from satellites.
Oh, that too. It's to make it look really cool, like you said.
But they've got photos from satellites already. They've already got photos, but we need to pass them off and then negotiate with scientists to see how cool they are.
Yeah, we also have to add the cool factor post after the picture.
It can take days, even weeks, to produce just a single image. The dazzling final results, enough to keep us all dreaming of the final frontier for years to come.
That's the main purpose of this. To keep you dreaming of the final frontier for years to come. That's it. Shout out to Mr. Cheswick. So that's his video that he's published, although it's not obviously his original material. But shout out to you, sir, for republishing this. There's another one that goes alongside it. I might actually show that now while we're on stream and we're live. So yeah, I'll grab the link again and stick it in the live stream chat so you can go and watch this video. Give it a thumbs up. Tell him I sent you. Say Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And then subscribe to him and listen to his cool music and watch his cool clips that he finds. But Mr. Cheswick's channel has also got another video. You know what? I'm actually just going to play that too. Why not?
This is starting to get like Globebusters.
Excuse me?
Where we place our virtual camera when we're creating these artist concepts is often very important to telling the story. If we place our camera behind the planet, so the planet is silhouetted by its star, we get a good look at the star.
Another reason we wanted to take this viewpoint is it highlights the fact that there are other exoplanets in the system.
And in fact, you can see that in our first draft. You can see there's the star in the distance, and you can see the other 4 inner planets.
So get this right, the YouTube algorithm has identified this as damaging to the point where it's got to highlight that the Earth's not flat. It's like, this is a discussion about how they render the globe Earth in the fake images we see. And yet it's got a disclaimer about Earth isn't flat underneath it. There's not even a single mention of flat Earth in this video. Why would you need to disclaim to somebody who watches this that Earth isn't flat when it's detailing how the globe's created in CGI? I mean, I'm shocked that this should need to be here with its Wikipedia entry telling you that Earth's not flat. Surely this would convince you of how spherical Earth is. Look how many spheres there are in it.
That was the first actual image that the scientists got from us. The feedback was that water was way too blue. Yes, it fell within its habitable zone, but it was barely within the habitable zone of the star. Sorry,
barely within the habitable zone. It's in a CGI rendered image. You mean the fantasy that people will envisage when they watch this and see it and have a little article below it about this exoplanet, that which you're fantasizing and creating in CGI is somehow in the habitable / non-habitable zone on the border, so therefore needs more green water. This is how your world's been presented to you people. This is how the wool has been pulled over your eyes. This is how it's done.
What are we listening to?
This is a Mr. Cheswick clip.
Good morning, by the way.
It's Mr. Cheswick. Did I post the link in the chat? Yeah, I did. So yeah, I put a link. Go and subscribe. You know Mr. Cheswick is though, right, Chocolate?
Yeah, it's the guy that used to make the music, right?
Yeah, he still does, yeah.
Still does? All right, that's cool. Check it out.
So that's who we're listening to. But yeah, I think we've got the general gist. There's probably enough meat on that bone already without me playing out the rest of that clip. So hopefully we'll get a few remarks then around out this live show and ask everyone to stay tuned if they're watching on an after show. Go ahead, have at it. What are your thoughts on those two videos where they detail the CGI rendering of planets and all the rest of it?
Nice fairy tale.
It seems to be an extension on the old excuse. Well, they've padded out the old excuse. It is CGI, but it has to be. So a little bit more justification behind why it's CGI. Now, this time it's an attempted validation from scientists as to why it's pictures and drawings of things that you've already got pictures of. So the justification is to ask a scientist to make it more scientific, that picture. Does that agree with science, my drawing? Wait,
I thought without the experiment,
let me
it's
just
not
answer
science.
him. Let me just answer him. Well, with the astrophysicist being the artist and it being, confirmed by the scientists who tell him how light or dark it needs to be, I'm pretty convinced at this stage, having heard scientific terms a few times and scientific people's labels a few times, that this is indeed science, Adam. It isn't. Any more?
I remember QE saying a long time ago, without the experiment, it's not science. So what did they experiment?
They didn't.
What was the... Okay, so there we go.
So it's art. The art that creates the fantasy world of heliocentrism. That's what they're offering. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!